It's 9 a.m. Friday morning on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. And it's time for Chamber Chatter, which is a monthly roundtable discussion with today's Long Island business leaders. It's underwritten by MapTunes, Long Island Chamber Maps. My name is Mark Snider. Let me introduce my two guests joining me today via Zoom technology. Frank Camarano, he is the president of the Nassau Council of Chambers of Commerce, and Gina Coletti, co-chair of the Suffolk County Alliance of Chambers. Frank and Gina, first time on our program. Welcome to Chamber Chatter.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right. Also on the big show today, Genie in a Bottle. We'll take a look back at the wishes these organizations had for their business group. And on Ask a Leader, I'm going to turn over the mic and I'm going to let our guests ask the question. So Frank, I'm going to start with you. As I understand it, your career began as an electrician, then moved into health and fitness, then meandered into construction, back into health and fitness, back into construction. Yeah. Do I have that right? Somewhat partially?
Yeah, I think I need to take Dramamine. We're moving around so much, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So tell my audience, how did all of that lead you to where you are today, president of the Nassau Council of Chambers?
Well, we our second gym that we built, which I'm sitting in right now in East Meadow, opened up about 2002, and we had joined the chamber back then. And my father's partner at the time, with the chamber meetings here and there, and I knew folks from being a gym in the area, in East Meadow. So I was, pretty well known, but about 2015, one of my friends was stepping up. We got the email that he was going to be president of the chamber, and he was asking for people to be part of the board. So I really hadn't, not much of it. I won't say I didn't have an interest in it per se, but I hadn't thought about it. And I said, hey, if I can help, great. So I wound up, my accelerated learning curve through it was I became a board member. It's a 2-year stint. About 5 months, 6 months into it, they asked me to be vice president the next year already. Got board member of the year. Then I became vice president in 2016. And in 17 and 18, I was the president of the East Meadow Chamber, chairman the last 2 years. Now, as I actually started as vice president of the chamber, I started attending here and there general meetings for the council. I like the folks. I really like the idea of meeting people from other chambers. A mixed crew. We're all mixed crew, but it was more of it wasn't even for me such at the time finding out what works for them and what doesn't. Then it evolved into more of a business for me. For me, chambers became a business, a non-paying business, but a business. So here I am. I've been president for about a month or so with the council. Very delighted to do that. It's my second full-time job, but I take pride in it, So that's kind of, it was like maybe a 6 or 7 year swing. I know Gina's been, I think, you'll get to Gina a lot longer than I in the chamber business than I have, formally, but that's where I am. So I'm in the catbird seat with you, Mark. There you go. We met when I was president of the chamber in East Meadow, right? Maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, something like that, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to you on your new role as chamber president for the Nassau Council. Gina, your bio looks pretty impressive to me. From numerous Women of Distinction Awards to several small business leadership awards. Tell my audience how you got where you are today.
Okay, so I am currently in real estate. I'm obviously the co-founder of the Suffolk County Alliance of Chambers. When I was in banking, I was with Citigroup for 20 years in corporate finance, and wound up being into the financial centers because everybody felt that I was a people person and I was such, a good networker. And so I wound up in the branch system. And part of my responsibility was to become involved with the Chamber of Commerce and to network and do business networking through the Chamber of Commerce. So I joined my local chamber which is the Nesconset Chamber of Commerce, because I live in Nesconset. The branch was in Lake Grove. There was no chamber in Lake Grove. So I joined the Nesconset Chamber, and I became very involved, similar to Frank saying, the story, how, you get involved and you just kind of keep going. And I joined just as a member, then I became a board member. And I was on the board for many, many years, and then I was elected the president of the chamber. And then as I was the president, I doubled the size of the Chamber of Commerce within like the first year. And, basically doing it on networking and, just getting people involved and doing a lot of different programs and different events that had never been done before. And while I was the president of the chamber, I had done the downtown revitalization, the street light project across Smithtown Boulevard. That was, something that was needed in the town. And it got accomplished. It was done, and it was beautiful. And, that we could put all the decorations, the holiday decorations. It was a big project. But part of that project was a big learning experience, knowing that you had to deal with all levels of government and all different types of government. It was county, you had the town, you had the highway department, you had all the different levels. So it was a true learning experience, and realizing, though, at the same time now how challenging it is to be in a chamber and trying to get one project done and off the ground is not so simple. I'm sure, Frank, you could nod your head on that one, right? Everything is challenging. So I know. So I got that project taken care of. And that was also when I had won one of the awards was the Suffolk County Woman of Distinction Award that following year. But then, it was sort of like, the light bulb had gone on. I was always in real estate for so many years. And I was involved with Nassau County in the respect that the company that I had worked for had the contracts for all of the landmark properties in Nassau County. So working in Nassau County so much and getting to network with a lot of the, the leaders in Nassau as well as in Suffolk, and working with the chambers, of course, you start dealing with everybody and started to realize, and Nassau obviously has been in existence, the Nassau Council of Chambers, for so many years, and Suffolk never had an alliance. They had attempted to do it a couple of times, but they never had anything formally complete and off the ground. And I had worked with Vision Long Island on a few different levels when I was the chamber president. And through that, Bob was on the board of the Vision Long Island with Eric Alexander. And I, started talking to them like, how come we don't have anything in Suffolk? We should have something in Suffolk. And so we co-founded it. We created the Suffolk County Alliance of Chambers back in 2014, 15. It was just like formed. And we started, hit the ground running. And ever since then, we've been growing and it's a beautiful thing. I mean, we've been helping the chambers for, what is it, like 7 years now? So, and it's all good stuff. I mean, we're helping to educate them and help them through all the issues that come across. So that's it.
For my listeners, you made a reference to Bob. Bob is the co-chair, Bob Fonte, co-chair of the Suffolk Alliance. He was on our program a year ago.
Yes.
We're gonna talk about him when we do our Genie in a Bottle segment. But you touched on something that is probably the single most often asked question on our show. You talked about doubling the size of your membership in Nesconset.
Right.
There's probably not a program that goes by, and my producer, Dan Cox, an engineer, will agree, where someone doesn't say, how do you go about boosting your membership? How do we get more members? It's our biggest struggle. So you kind of touched on it a little bit. I'm going to come back to that. Okay. Because I want to jump back to Frank for a second, but I do want to come back to that. Frank, Gina had talked a little bit touched on the long history of the Nassau Council and the relatively short history of the Suffolk Alliance. For my listeners who really don't know, like, what is a Nassau? I know what a Chamber of Commerce is, but what is the Nassau Council of Chamber? Like, what is the role of your organization? So what do you tell people when they ask you that?
Well, a lot of people reach out to us thinking we are a chamber, right? Like the Nassau County Chamber, which we're not, right? We're an umbrella, right? I mean, like there's a Queens Chamber of Commerce, a very large, they're a chamber, but man, they're Queens, right? So it's a huge chamber. Decades and decades ago, the difference, time frame aside, right? The difference between the Suffolk Alliance formation and the Nassau Council's formation is people didn't necessarily independent get together and say, hey, we need this. The chambers actually did it. The chambers decades and decades and decades ago got together and said, we're in need. They literally got to have to get together, right? And so they came together, and I think there was like 10 or 12 at the time. There was more chambers than that, but initially, got on board. But I guess that we're going to call it a committee or whatever, and formed us. So now I come on board, and I've been involved with the council only maybe 6 years or whatever, with a large organization that's been around for decades and decades. I call the chambers kids in a way internally. We got kids all over the place, and so I mean the the dynamic is that we were formed by the chambers themselves. Okay, not I mean we call ourselves umbrella, and we are umbrella. Okay, but we're not really a governing structure. We're more like an uncle and aunt. We're not the parents. We're like,
right.
Well, Frank, Frankie, you better you want to think about this again, that kind of stuff. Our main goal as the council, as the umbrella of the chambers in Nassau County, is to support our members. Who are our members? Chambers of Commerce. Okay. And that's it. Now, there's other things we get involved with. And of course, Gina's been involved with a lot of upstate stuff with, laws and generally promoting small business here, which we do all the time, especially during the season. But our primary goal is supporting the chambers. So the chambers can then support the local businesses, large and small, typically smaller, in their communities. Now, what we have together, and I'm not going to speak for Gina, but is the love for what we do, okay, and the total belief in the chamber system, meaning the best way to help small businesses in general, in the Suffolk and Nassau County, is to start at the local level, where we're ground up, roots up kind of thing, and that's how can I help you, Mark, unless I speak with you about what's going on, what your needs are. Now, if I know you or we have a lot in common, whether we're in the same community or not, that all helps. Otherwise we could be throwing money and throwing labor forces all over the place. We'd be shooting in the dark. So what better way to do that than to have a local organization? It just so happens most chambers are, let's say they're all volunteer. Doesn't mean that they don't have some paid staff, but they're all volunteer. Get them on board where they can help their buddies, their friends, the communities, the churches, the schools, but in a way where it's a circle, right? It's a circle where they help them. And, it's understanding that chambers and local businesses support the community so the communities can then support them too, and that's really, I know it's a long explanation or a long answer for you, but that's really what the council is about. My job is to support chambers. So I guess I could have answered that with 3 or 4 words.
Well, listen, your elevator speech is, I support chambers, and then you get off at the next floor. But if you have a little more time, then you give us an answer like you gave us. Before I get back to Gina, what decade was the Nassau Council formed? Was that back in the 40s, 50s? Do you know?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh,
I have to look it up. No. I think it's been around for I should know this, right?
I think it's 40 years.
Yeah, I think it's more. I think it's
42 or something.
It's not 50, it's maybe 46, 47, upper 40s.
Okay, cool. Hey, so Gina, I want to get back to your Nesconset membership boost. One thing I'm certain of, and that is that a lot of chamber members and board members and leadership listen to this program. So for those that are listening and for my listening audience too, how'd you go about doubling your membership in 1 year? Like what were some of the initiatives that you put into place that benefited you?
Well, myself, just as a person, right? I am a very, very friendly person. I love helping people. I've always helped people no matter what I've done my entire career. And I enjoy helping people, and I have a very good rapport with people. And I basically just hit the ground running and went out to the businesses in the area that were not members of the Wisconsin Chamber. And I also, because I was working at the bank at the time, a lot of my clients at the bank were also very local small businesses. So I reached out on both sides. I reached out through the neighborhood that I lived in, and I reached out through my job. And I just talked to as many people as possible and basically told them what the benefits were of becoming a chamber member and to join. And they did. And it was really, and honestly, it was a great experience, because everybody would always just thank me for explaining a lot of people don't even know what a chamber is, like just educating them on what the Chamber of Commerce is. And that in itself is tremendous. People open up a business, and I see it even on like in real estate, like people are looking to open up a new store or whatever it is, a new business. And I tell them, are you a member? Or I'll ask them, are you a member of the Chamber of Commerce? And some people are like, what is the Chamber of Commerce? Where is a chamber of, they don't even know. So I educate people constantly on what a chamber is, where they are, how they could help you, how they can support you. And it just continuously stems. And then people they just join and they tell their friends and their friends. It's like any other network. And then we would have events where we did an event one time it was the first time we ever did it. We did a casino night where they had never done a casino night before. And we had like an unbelievable crowd. It was like, I can't even explain. It was tremendous. And we had hundreds of people there that weren't even chamber members. They brought friends to the event. So it just kept growing from there and there and there. And it's just a way of networking. You just have to network and talk to people and get the word out. It's like anything else. But honestly, if you asked me one word, I would say educating them. Education. That's it.
Yeah. And you know what else? There's an expression I like to use. It's that enthusiasm isn't taught, it's caught. And if you're enthusiastic about what it is that you're selling, and clearly, you're out selling the chamber and all of its benefits and its merits, before we take a break here, in my time as a traveling salesman, I'm on the street a lot visiting with small businesses, and I come across all different types of business owners. Those that don't know what a chamber is, those that have heard of a chamber, but they've never been approached, those that were a member 10 years ago, got upset at a meeting because a board member said something that hurt their feelings, and they never came back. Right. And then there's a bunch that think the Chamber of Commerce is a bank. And to this day, and I asked them, really, where is that bank located? And they kind of remember a bank called Commerce Bank about 20 years ago. And I think it was
which is now TD Bank, right?
Downtown. Yeah, that kind of thing. So yeah, it takes all kinds, but that's a great story. And I hope some of our listeners took some notes. All right. We're going to take a very quick break, and then we're going to come back with Gina in a bottle. And that's where we're going to take a trip back in time to learn what 3 wishes our organizations had for their business group and how they've made out. This is 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We'll be right back with Frank and Gina.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to WCWP.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
And then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. You know, those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
Welcome back to 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm your host, Mark Snider. This is Chamber Chatter, a monthly roundtable discussion with today's Long Island business leaders. It's been underwritten by MapTunes, Long Island Chamber Maps, and by the MapTunes Shoppers Discount app. With over 2,500 discounts island-wide, download the MapTunes app. That's MapTunes, MapToons, or you can simply visit shoppersdiscountcard.com. My business leaders with me today are Frank Camarano. He's the president of the Nassau Council of Chambers of Commerce, and Gina Coletti. She's the co-chair of the Suffolk County Alliance of Chambers. Okay, so right around this time, we typically play Genie in a Bottle, and that's where our listening audience learns about the 3 wishes that our guests have for their chamber organization. However, since both groups have been on this program before and gave us their 3 wishes, let's review them, keeping in mind that we were hit with a global pandemic right around that time. So Gina, 1 year ago, we had your partner, co-chair Bob Fonte on our program. And it was right around the time the first vaccines were rolling out. And here's what he wished for. Number 1, he wanted to level the playing field for small businesses. And he asked, why was it that the big box stores were allowed to stay open during the pandemic, but the small businesses were not? And he talked about lobbying local, county, state, even federal officials to make changes that will make it easier for small businesses to survive during trying times like these. How you doing on that front?
Well, it is a very valid wish, because at that time, obviously the world was upside down. Nobody knew where to turn and what to do. We, as the Suffolk County Alliance of Chambers, normally have quarterly meetings, and we pivoted into weekly Zoom meetings with all levels of government, from the governor's office down to, we had congressmen on, we had legislators on, we had county executive on, every single level of every week. We had the police commissioner on, the Suffolk police commissioner, giving reports and whatnot. And one of the big concerns, and I had brought this up, Bob and I both had brought this up, was how is that fair? Where like a Costco or a Walmart could be open and there's this massive amount of people in there because it's so large, right? So, why is it that a small business in like a downtown that might be 1,000 square feet, if anything, why don't you do it on like a per square foot basis? I had brought that up to Steve Ballone on the Zoom call. I said, why can't we incorporate some type of a consistent concept on how to approach this? Because you're putting all these small businesses in danger and at a risk of going out of business. And it was trying to think outside the box and say, how come we can't do that? Like if you're in a small store, me personally, maybe I would feel more comfortable being in a smaller venue where there's only 1, 2, or 3 people allowed in at a time versus being in a Costco where, there's hundreds of people and there's hundreds of people out online. So it was a very, a tenuous time, obviously, for everybody. Things have changed, obviously, as things evolved. I mean, they got worse before they got better. But leveling the playing field is obviously something that, we want to continue to push, and say, let's just be fair, like to these small businesses, but at least shedding light on, these things that are obviously concerns, like how could we fix this and, do anything that we could possibly do, and bringing it to that level. Like we're constantly escalating the issues up to Albany, and it comes down, it goes Albany. We deal with the state, we deal with the county. And that's part of what we do. We're supporting the chambers of commerce, and obviously helping the small businesses is what we're all about. Just like Frank says, it's just supporting the chambers. So it's extremely important. Yep.
Okay. Well, number 2, along those lines, he said, we want to make sure small businesses are classified as small businesses. He said New York State and the federal government presently classify small business as 500 employees or less.
Right.
And he wants to reclassify small business as 50 employees or less.
Right. Well, because that was something else. And on those weekly Zoom calls that we had with the chambers, we also had the head of small business administration for Long Island, the regional director, and we also had every week we had the head of the Small Business Development Center from Stony Brook University. We've had Farmingdale University to talk about, all the things and all the ways that they could help them financially with all the programs, the PPE, the EIDL programs, like completely educating them on everything. And that was a constant education every single week because it was fluid. Everything was changing and constantly pivoting. So it was this influx of information that on a daily basis would change. And then we would recap everything on the weekly basis. It was really incredible. But as far as that is concerned, I mean, we basically have pushed it. We brought it up to the SBA. And in the beginning, they left out even some of these programs. They left out chambers of commerce completely. That they couldn't even get any funding. So we were the ones like raising our hand, like with the red flag, like, hello guys, like you're forgetting about us here. And not just us, but like not-for-profits. And so we were the ones barking, saying, we have to fix this. You can't leave them out in the cold. Chambers of commerce, they get their revenue strictly from fundraising. I mean, how else do you exist as a chamber, right? You have to fundraise all the time. Right. And fundraising is by doing events. And we couldn't do fundraising events. Nobody could do fundraising events. So it's like they were like scrambling, like how are we going to get through this? And in the meantime, they were omitting them from the programs. So it was just, but we were the ones, basically saying, we have to escalate this because it has to change. So we're the voice. And then, and Frank and I, obviously we talk about things all the time, and how we could collaborate, right, Frank, and try to do things together and get things to a better scenario for everybody involved. It's it's an effort, but that's what we're here for.
Okay. You made a reference to SBA in your answer. That's the Small Business Association.
Yes, correct. The Small Business Administration. Correct.
Administration.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yes, the Small Business Administration. Yes.
See, yes. I'm here to pay attention to what you're saying and then respond.
That's good. It's details. I'm so used to just saying it. I guess it's like it's
a lot of
part
acronyms.
Of our,
a lot of
yes,
acronyms.
Exactly. The SBA is Small Business Administration. SBDC is the Small Business Development Center in Stony Brook University and in Farmingdale. That's in Suffolk County. And they're free. Like these programs are all like the Small Business Development Center. They do business plans with people. I was working with them way before when I was in banking. I used to work with them all the time. I would refer a lot of my clients, my business clients, to them to say, they'll help you. We do, preferred programs with banks, like, they can get loans and whatnot and doing business plans. And people aren't even aware that that's even there. And it's completely free. It's like, it's amazing. And that's just out there. And again, like I keep saying, it's educating people really is what it's all about. Letting people know and communicating to them what's out there and what's available to them.
And that's the SBDC?
SBDC, Small Business Development Center, correct.
So what's the ACDC? Okay, number 3. Bob said he wanted a reclassification of zoning on Route 110. He said there's over 10 million square feet of office space. What was he talking about there?
Well, obviously, I think he was saying, I know there's a lot going on Long Island. I happen to sit on the Suffolk County Downtown Revitalization Panel for many, many years. So, we're the ones, like if you're a small chamber of commerce or if you're a bid or if you are, a Rotary, whatever the case may be, and you wanted to apply for some funding to get some work done in your town or in your village, you can apply, but you have to apply with the municipality and you can try to get some grant money every year. It's a pot of money out there in Suffolk County, but you have to be aware of it and you have to apply for it. And it's a process, but it's worth doing because you can get a lot done. Patchogue was the person who, the mayor Pontieri had done that in Patchogue. That's how it all started, actually.
Amazing.
Back in the day with Suffolk County executive at the time, it was Steve Levy, and he was the one who actually incorporated this whole concept, and it's still in place, and it's a great concept. But what he's saying is rezoning because, and it is honestly, especially post-COVID, zoning is tremendous. I'm in real estate, so I see like this, all these small businesses, a lot of the buildings that close, the commercial, I do commercial and residential, the commercial empty buildings, right? What do you do with these buildings? And if you don't have the openness to be willing to adapt and to pivot and change with the times, because obviously we have a new normal now that we've never ever seen before. And if the zoning laws become a little bit more flexible, and the towns and villages realize that there's a major need to adapt, and they have to. I mean, how did we survive if we don't? We can't look back and say, what Long Island was like 50 years ago is not what Long Island is today. They just redid the Long Island Railroad. Think about it. It took them forever and a day to redo that. And they're putting tons of money into fixing it because they had to. It's like you have to adapt to that change. So it's really, zoning is the key to a lot of issues for small businesses. And we had one of I'll never forget, like when we first started, and this is, what we go back to is like we took surveys. We surveyed all the chambers and said, what's your concern? Like, what's your biggest need? What are your main pitfalls? Like, what is it that you need from us? Tell us, because how do we know really? And unless we ask you. And a lot of it was obviously funding, right? That's always number one is, funding. How do we get grants? How do we get this? How do we get that? But also infrastructure. Okay. So infrastructure is also partnered with zoning, right? So the infrastructure issue was really more about like trying to open up, say you want to open up a restaurant. It's all tied back to the health department, right? It's the county health department and the water, and there's so many pieces of the puzzle. So all of the chambers had talked to that. So this is just one example. I invited the Suffolk County, the Department of Health, the commissioner, to come to and speak to all of the chamber members. And it was like a great meeting. He spoke with like 2 or 3 members of his staff and explaining the issues and talking to how to get things accomplished and where to go and what numbers to call. And it just, again, educating everybody. Yeah. If you tell us what your problem is, we're going to help you fix it. And that's pretty much, that's what we're doing. And zoning, like we can't ignore how important zoning is, because nothing can change unless the zoning changes. So it's a process, and every town and every village is obviously, its own. They're all unique in their own way. So it's not a simple fix, but talking to it and bringing it up and escalating it and just consent, you have to keep talking about it. Because if you don't talk about it, it'll never change.
Well, Frank, speaking of reclassification of zoning, when Dennis Grossman, your predecessor, was on our program, which was just literally days before mid-March and the pandemic hit, one of his wishes was he wanted to see more mixed use opportunities for some of the downtowns, specifically adding second floors above businesses to share some of the tax burden. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, that's been, you're catching Dennis at a disadvantage, because look what just happened. He had the conversation.
I understand.
And, but that's been happening. It was funny when truth be told, as Gina can confirm, Vision Long Island's been a big supporter of that, right, Gene?
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
That's happening. I don't know how that's going to solve, the world's problems, all by itself. There's a lot of problems. But it's
not all by itself, but it's part of it.
It's a great thing to do, but it is happening around us.
Is it like where is that happening? Because I haven't seen it in my travels. That doesn't mean it's not happening, but where do you see that kind of second level development happening?
I think by train stations more.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I could have, got some, numbers for you, and I'll send them to you. You know exactly what towns are doing it.
No. You're right. You're right.
It's above. It's more. Look, I'm technically I am from Franklin Square, but my chambers in East Meadow, we don't have one here. But you're going to see that more in Merrick, Belmore, or where there's train stations where you have a hub quote unquote, a hub of stores to start with, there. And they're either going to be either build on top of or replace them from the get-go with what we're talking about, commercial below and residential above.
No. You're right. It's happening in Farmingdale. It's happening in Copeg. I've seen it there. I
train
think
stations, right?
Yeah.
It's happening in a lot of towns, actually.
Yeah.
It's called a TOD, like a transit-oriented development, where, they're working around the mass transit, right? So obviously there's a volume of people. Patchogue has it. They built everything around that train station. Everything is and that's kind of it. It's a collective issue. It's a collaborative, effort by everybody, right? So you put these, mixed use buildings, you have commercial on the bottom, you have, retail above, apartments above it. I just did one in Spionk, the Spionk train station. I just finished the last lease that went in on the commercial, and there's apartments above it, brand new development, 38 apartments, 4 retail stores on the bottom, and 4 apartments above that, but behind it are like 38 brand new apartment buildings, apartments, not apartment buildings, but apartments. And that, it's popping up everywhere. They just did it in Riverhead. The same thing. It's like, right, they're not on the train station, but Riverhead is the same thing. They're popping up there too. Lindenhurst just did it. Ronkonkoma Hub, if anybody has looked at Ronkonkoma Hub, is like booming, tremendous. And I could tell you, I live in the town of Wisconsin, as I said. We have a new supervisor, Eddie Wareheim. He's been in for a few years now, and he's doing a great job. And part of his, he was always on the town council for a very long time. And we had a different supervisor for many, many years, Pat Vecchio. May he rest in peace. He passed away a few years back. And he wasn't as proactive when it came to rezoning and, going vertical, let's say, right? And thinking a little outside of the box. But Ed Wareheim, as a supervisor, has been much more proactive. The Hop Hog Industrial Park is the largest industrial park on the eastern seaboard, where a lot of people aren't even aware of that. But they went through a major analysis of that industrial park and how much revenue is generated from that industrial park and all of the businesses that are doing business there. And they realized that they should consider rezoning it, and they are. They're putting in not so much every part of it, but they are going to be putting in like a live, work, play concept right inside the industrial park, so that if the younger people want to just be like a live, work, play, and they'll have the mixed uses, and that's what they're talking about. It's the retail on the bottom, the residential on the top, but you have to be open. You have to have, that willingness to adapt to the way that the world is changing here on Long Island.
Yeah. Smart growth.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, that's exactly right.
There
you go. I know. Vision Long Island, Eric.
We're gonna take a quick break.
It's so true.
When we come back, I want to explore your 3 wishes for your organizations. And we're going to do a feature called Ask a Leader. That's where I stop asking the questions and I let each of you take the mic. This is 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We're coming right back.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
Okay, we're back. It's Chamber Chatter on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. My name is Mark Snider. Chamber Chatter is a monthly roundtable discussion with today's Long Island business leaders. It's been underwritten by MapTunes, Long Island Chamber Maps. Let me reintroduce my 2 guests with me today, Frank Camarano, president of the Nassau Council of Chambers of Commerce, and Gina Coletti, known as Gina in a Bottle. She's the co-chair of the Suffolk County Alliance of Chambers. And speaking of Gina in a Bottle, let's get back to our Genie in a Bottle segment. And I like to ask our guests what 3 wishes they have. Now, Frank Camarano is new as president of the Nassau Council of Chambers, and I know he's got ideas and plans. And what's on your mind, Frank? What 3 wishes is the genie going to grant you?
Gina is not going to grant me any wishes. I have a list of things, a long list of things we need to work for to achieve. I'm just going to zip through them real fast. I know I'm breaking from tradition for you. Being, chamber like concentric, whatever it is, I'm going to loop the rest of the Nassau chambers into the council. Believe it or not, as many chambers as we have, there's a few floating around out there that are not members. Can't explain it. Haven't been around forever.
There are.
There are. Yeah, there are.
Yes. No, I know there are. Frankie's
going to get them. Again, so I know what Gina was talking about before about membership, to a chamber. The advantages of that. Plus, look, a lot of grant money is going to be coming through the council, moving forward. So that alone's worth it. Chambers need help with infrastructure internally, right? Mark, I meet tons of them, obviously, being part of the chamber family I am, but you're part of your job. I could imagine everyone's a new reset on you. And then year to year or every couple of years, it's like, oh my God, what's going on, right? So I want to help them, with continuity and, the workings of it. Sometimes, I was fortunate enough to come into a big, strong chamber from the get-go. East Meadow was. So my job was just to make it better than ever, But a lot of times when people come on board, they're working, with an organization that's not quite as set up, as East Meadow was. And I can't take credit for that. Folks before me did that. Elected officials, they're coming and going. We had a big election, but the truth is, I think, organizations in general, but chambers, I guess, for my take in particular, need to have a better relationship with their elected officials in their areas. And then, of course, for the council to work on, filling in the pieces. They have their needs. It seems that some chambers are really good with that. In other chambers, it's like that doesn't even exist. They're running blind. So we need to, it might seem like a petty thing, but really, the truth be told, it isn't. You need to work with it. And look, Gina has been talking about, the Suffolk Alliance doing most of what Gina said today, is about them doing stuff for chambers, right? And not in lieu of chambers, because a lot of the stuff she spoke about, a chamber doesn't really get involved with that. What my goal is, on my little list, I'm going to go through, it's getting bigger, but is to have the chambers do as much as they can, right? To help them do that. So that's what would be elected officials. I want the council to work more with other organizations. We always did in the past. There's been a lull during COVID, but I think in the past several years, it's been a little of a lull, and we need to pick that up. I think I'm doing an okay job with that, right, Gene, so far? Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. We've been working collaboratively together for sure. Yes.
Yep. Offices, I want to say offices. The council needs offices. Why? Because we're going to be doing a lot more stuff. Okay, we need a home base. We don't have one right now. Virtual, that's about it. We need more. We do have staff. We need more staff to do all the things that Frankie wants to do for our chamber members. We need better communication with our kids, which are the chambers, right? And everyone else. It's sometimes it's like pulling teeth, we all get along great, but sometimes, you need to reach out, and sometimes things happen right away, and you can't wait for 6 emails or 3 emails or 4 emails before it sinks it all around. So we need to be able to trigger pull in a way to get things done or reach out to our chambers better, because we have a lot of them. In-person stuff. Been fighting for it, right through COVID on the council end. We were strictly, Zoom stuff at a time, even when I thought personally we could have started to transcend or move into, mixed use per se, a little bit of both. And we with Dennis was very, he felt that we really should stick with Zoom. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but pretty much, as long as we could, for safety. And I was a little bit more riskier kind of guy. So I love in-person stuff. And just another thing, storage for chambers. You'd be surprised how many chambers do not have storage spaces. They want to do stuff. They have things even donated to them. They don't know what to do with it. It's in their basement, And what I mean storage for chambers is there's got to be a way, and actually I'm working on a few different avenues for the council to get storage for chambers if they need it. It doesn't, some chambers are good to go right where they were at, and that's fine. But a lot of them really do need that, morphing into other things, chambers that need phone numbers. A lot of times chambers, you're calling the person that's running the chamber at the time, more, let's just say more of a virtual office. I don't want a virtual office for the council, granted, but for chambers, getting a solid virtual office if they don't have one on their own. Most chambers I don't think do. They're mostly virtual, but get a really solid. Those are my 3 expanded to 30. So, but I could keep on going.
Frank, question for you. I know there are a handful of Nassau chambers that are not part of the council. Frank, what's the argument from a chamber of commerce for not joining the council? I mean, why wouldn't they?
I haven't even spoken with them, yet. I have to. This is on my punch list, Mark. Right. So
I mean, is it about dues? They don't want to pay dues.
The truth be told, we've been around for a long time. They just not. If I would run into a person that might have had contact with one of the chambers from way back, maybe there was a story, maybe there wasn't. But I just don't think they are. I think it's just a matter of reaching out with them, having a conversation, and see where they're at. Look, the truth be told, we're all in this together, right? You hear everybody say that.
Right.
But the chambers a long time ago, decided that we were all better working together, right? And that's what the council is for. So, at the end of the day, it's, shame on me at this point. I've been president for a month, so shame on me that I haven't gone out to them yet, but I need to, how about this? As I said before, my goal, the council's goal, in my opinion, our number one goal is to help chambers, period. Because we believe that chambers are the best solution to helping small businesses or conduit to doing that, right? So we either got to up the ante, as a whole, as a council, whatever, or, get another job, right? But that's when it comes to the, these other chambers that are out there, I think they just need to be contacted, believe it or not. I don't even know, where I've been around, I haven't heard any stories at all about anything where chambers haven't want to be part of us. It just hasn't happened. Look, at the end of the day, we make a decision, right? A chamber is a business. The council is a business, right? The Suffolk Alliance is a business. You put your cards on the table. Do you feel as an organization like the rest of us? It's more of a chamber thing, not as a council thing, that you'd be better off all the chambers working together or not. And if they don't, which I don't think they will, why would they? Then they'll come on board. It's just a matter of, look, I'll take it on the chin. It's you can talk big, but at the end of the day, I've had 30 days and I haven't reached out to them yet, so I need to do that. And I need to get out there with the other chambers too. Remember, we have 45 others, that are members. I've been out a bit, but I can do more. So there's my stump speech.
Gina, how many Suffolk chambers are not part of the Alliance?
I would say probably about maybe 9 or 10, something like that. But a lot of them are the far eastern chambers. Although Montauk Chamber is joining, we do have some of the Hamptons, but there's a lot of smaller ones out there also. I think part of the reason is because they are so far away. Even for them to try to get to meetings, it's hard because even though we try to be very sensitive to the fact that Suffolk is tremendous when you look at how, on a map, how big we are, right? I mean, we go from Route 110 corridor all the way out to Montauk Point. That's a lot of mileage to cover. And, we typically would have our morning meetings from 8 to 10. It's really not an easy thing for people to get to. And even though we bounce, we try to be fair and we try to do Western, Middle, and Eastern. It's still, even for the Eastern, for them to come all the way in, it's hard. Yeah. So I guess they feel just locationally, we're not quite as compact as Nassau County.
You are 3 Nassau counties.
Yeah, we are.
That's the size of Suffolk, about 3 Nassaus.
Right. Yep.
So let's talk about your 3 wishes for the Suffolk Alliance. What do you think? What do you got?
One thing that for sure I know Bob and I have been working on for years, along with the Nassau Council of Chambers, and VLI and the Long Island Business Council also. We've all been trying to push this legislation for the small business deferred savings account, like an IRA for small businesses. And the whole concept was when this was kicked off many years back, was to try to allow small businesses in there, in like if they have a little extra money, put it into that small business IRA, but also use it almost like as a rainy day fund, where they could tap it if they needed to tap it without being taxed on it to take it out. And if this would have passed, believe it or not, like when we proposed this many years back, when COVID hit, that would have been a real lifesaver to a lot of the companies. Exactly. And so it is being revisited, and we're resurfacing this whole concept because it's now more important than ever. And they now see it crystal clear how that it would have been such a benefit, and they just didn't push it through. So, that's one thing that we are still working on, hopefully, pushing it up, through Albany and getting that done in 2022. That's definitely number one. Number two, I would say, with Frank coming on board as the new Nassau Council president, first of all, congratulations to you. I wholeheartedly believe that you're doing a phenomenal job now, and I know you will be in the future. You were doing a great job even prior to. Is one of the things that we would like to do is to collaborate more with the Nassau Council of Chambers. And we did one meeting jointly in Huntington. It was in June. It was the big kickoff that we had for once COVID was really starting to ease up on everybody. And we had it over at the Paramount Theater. And it was just an incredible, I thought, an effort that we put together to get, the two counties of, we work collaboratively together and just see what we could do as a, think about it, concept, the concept of it is, this strength in numbers, right? And we always say that, like even just the alliance, when we formed it, there was strength in numbers that we joined and we band together. And if we band Suffolk and Nassau and try to work more as a team and collaborate and work jointly, I think, we could really make a difference.
That's
and,
a great, that's a great,
and escalating them.
It's a great wish and very doable.
Yes. And
what do you got?
I wholeheartedly believe that it could be done. And my third wish would be to, this is something that we wanted to do when COVID hit. That was the year that we were seriously talking about doing like an annual award dinner, similar to what Nassau Council does. They do that every year. Yeah. And we were working on getting that off the ground, and we couldn't, obviously, because nothing was allowed to happen. So that's something that Bob and I are, hoping to do in this coming year in 2022. It's
good when the legislative breakfast is very successful, Frank. So
exactly.
I wish you good luck this year with it as well. All right. So I got 1 minute for each of you for our Ask a Leader segment. Frank, I'm going to start with you. Being new in the role, I'm sure you have a question for Gina. Gina, I'll give you a 1 minute answer. So Frank, what do you think? And what would you like to ask Gina?
Gina, from a Suffolk Alliance, standpoint, how do you envision, let's say, nut and bolt role in the next 24 to 24 months, 1 to 2 years, looping in, the rest of, I guess, the chambers in your area is huge, and the ones out east. Do you have a plan for that?
Yeah, I actually.
The out east ones.
I do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I definitely do. And it's just physically going there and talking to them and coordinating meetings and asking if we could become, be in one of their meetings, whether it's a board meeting or a member meeting, just to, kind of introduce ourselves to them. I literally walked into the Montauk Chamber. I took 3 days off. I worked every single day this entire summer. And in the first weekend of October, I went out to Montauk for 3 days to breathe with my husband. And I went into the Montauk Chamber office to talk to them because in the past they hadn't joined. And I spoke to the woman. She was wonderful. And it's like just really a matter. She was like, I am so glad you came in. I've heard so much about you. And so I educated her on what we do. And they're just not aware of it. And this is what I keep saying. It's just, you just have to, make the time and the effort. And obviously, this has been a very hectic time for a lot of people. And now that things will hopefully go back to semi-normal, we'll be able to do so and get more people involved.
Great. Running a little short on time. So Gina, a question for Frank. Frank, give you a 1 minute answer. What do you got, Gina?
So all right. So I do have a good question regarding like the fact that we are looking to, to do an annual awards dinner. If you were to say, if you think back, and I know you've been involved for a long time, maybe, what have you done right? What have you done wrong? And what would you do differently for the awards dinner? Is there anything that you would say you wouldn't necessarily do, or you think that you should do, or you would do differently?
More time per se for the pictures. We need more. Registrators tend to come a little later, plus it takes up time, and those are the things that last forever. Start with the programming of the breakfast a lot earlier, like soon. Maybe in January, February. It's a huge event. I mean, it's the tail end of October, but we have sponsors involved. We usually start about in June. What are we doing?
Start planning, right? Okay.
Yeah, we start. I think we need those two together. I think the earlier planning will help. And of course, other things is we're starting online edition, which we're starting with the program and all that. Make it more interactive through the year, so it's not like a one and done thing. It's kind of sitting, but it's kind of interactive. We're still working it out with the website.
Okay, got you.
1 minute.
Okay.
Those are two very good suggestions. All right.
Thank you.
Special thanks to my guests for joining me today. We had Frank Camarano, president of the Nassau Council of Chambers of Commerce. Frank, good luck in your new role in 2022. Gina Coletti joined us today. She's the co-chair of the Suffolk County Alliance of Chambers. Gina, I'm glad it worked out and we could have you on the program.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. You've been listening to Chamber Chatter on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. It's been underwritten by MapTunes, Long Island Chamber Maps. Chamber Chatter is also available as a podcast. You can visit WCWP.org/Chamber Chatter. And did you know you can watch this very program on YouTube? Yep, just search WCWP Studios. Special thanks to my buddy Dan Cox. He's the director of broadcasting here at WCWP, and he's also my engineer throughout the pandemic. Thank you, Dan. And to my listeners, remember, always keep your local businesses in mind when you're making purchases or you're utilizing services. Yes, it's that important. Project Independence and You is coming up. Merry Christmas, everyone.